I kept my roommate's cheating secret for months. When his GF finally caught them together, our friendship group imploded. What's up, everyone? This is probably the most messed up situation I've ever been caught in the middle of. And honestly, I'm still dealing with the aftermath months later. My name is Jake, and I'm about to tell you how keeping one secret completely destroyed a friendship group that had been tight for over 3 years. This isn't just about cheating. This is about loyalty, manipulation, and how sometimes doing the right thing can blow up in your face in ways you never imagined. The setup. Let me paint you the picture first. I'm a junior in college, and I live in this house with 3 other guys, Marcus, Tyler, and Ben. We've been living together since sophomore year, and honestly, it was the perfect setup. We all got along great, had similar interests, and the house was always the place where our entire friend group would hang out. Marcus was the unofficial leader of our group. You know the type. Charismatic, funny, everyone loved being around him. He'd been dating this girl Sarah for about 2 years, and she was basically part of our friend group too. Sarah was one of those genuinely sweet people who everyone adored. She'd bring us food when we were studying for finals, remember everyone's birthdays, and she was always down to hang out and watch movies or play games with us. The thing about Sarah was that she was completely devoted to Marcus. Like, this girl worshipped the ground he walked on. She'd drive an hour from her campus just to spend weekends with him. She'd cook his favorite meals, buy him thoughtful gifts, and honestly, she treated him better than he deserved. All of us could see it, but Marcus seemed to love the attention. Tyler and Ben were the other 2 roommates, and we had this extended friend group of about 10 people total who were constantly in and out of our house. It was like having a second family, you know? We'd all grown up together through college, been through breakups, failed exams, family drama, everything. Then there was Jess. Enter Jess. Jess was Marcus's lab partner in his advanced chemistry class. She was smart, funny, and honestly, really attractive. She started coming around the house more often, initially just to work on lab reports and study for exams. At first, none of us thought anything of it. Marcus had always been friendly, and it wasn't unusual for him to invite classmates over to study. But I started noticing things. The way Marcus would light up when Jess texted him. How he'd suddenly become very interested in his appearance when he knew she was coming over. The way they'd laugh a little too long at each other's jokes, or how their study sessions seemed to involve more talking than actual studying. Sarah would sometimes be there during these study sessions, and I could see her picking up on the vibe too. She'd get quiet, kind of withdrawn, and I could tell she was uncomfortable with how much attention Marcus was giving Jess. But Sarah being Sarah, she never said anything. She just tried harder to be the perfect girlfriend, bringing snacks for their study sessions and being overly nice to Jess. It was painful to watch, honestly. The first sign. The first real sign that something was wrong happened about 4 months ago. I came home from class early and heard voices from Marcus's room. I figured it was just another study session, but when I walked past his door, I heard something that made me stop dead in my tracks. They were laughing, but it was intimate laughter. The kind you hear between people who are more than just friends. Then I heard Jess say something like, "We shouldn't be doing this," and Marcus responded with, "Sarah doesn't have to know." My heart sank. I stood there for a moment, not sure what to do. Part of me wanted to burst in and confront them, but another part of me hoped I was misunderstanding the situation. Maybe they were just talking about surprising Sarah with something? Maybe I was reading too much into it. I quietly went to my room, but I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd heard. That weekend, when Sarah came to visit, I watched Marcus like a hawk. He was acting completely normal with her. Affectionate, attentive, everything seemed fine. I started convincing myself that I'd misunderstood what I'd heard. But then I noticed Marcus was texting someone constantly, and he'd quickly put his phone away whenever Sarah got close. Red flags were going up everywhere. The confrontation. A few days later, I decided I had to say something to Marcus. I waited until we were alone in the kitchen and brought it up as casually as I could. "Hey man, is everything okay with you and Sarah?" I asked. Marcus looked genuinely confused. "Yeah, why?" "I don't know. You just seem distracted lately, and you and Jess seem pretty close." That's when Marcus's whole demeanor changed. He got defensive immediately. "Dude, what are you trying to say? Jess and I are just lab partners. We're friends. There's nothing going on." But the way he said it, the way he couldn't quite meet my eyes, I knew I was right. There was definitely something going on. "Look, Jake," Marcus continued, "I don't know what you think you saw or heard, but you're wrong. And even if you weren't, it's not really your business, is it?" That last part hit me like a punch to the gut. He was right that it wasn't technically my business, but Sarah was my friend too. She'd been nothing but kind to all of us, and watching her get played like this felt wrong. But I backed off. I told myself that maybe I was wrong, maybe I was making a big deal out of nothing. Marcus was my roommate and one of my best friends. I didn't want to cause drama over what might be a misunderstanding. I wish I'd trusted my instincts. The secret comes out. 2 weeks later, any doubt I had was completely erased. I came home from my evening class and heard noises coming from Marcus's room. But this time, there was no mistaking what was happening. They weren't studying chemistry. They were having sex. I stood in the hallway, completely frozen. Part of me was angry. Part of me was disgusted. And part of me felt sick, thinking about Sarah. This wasn't just an emotional affair anymore. Marcus was full-on cheating on his girlfriend in our house. The next morning, Marcus cornered me in the kitchen before I could even have my coffee. "We need to talk," he said, and I could tell he knew that I knew. "Marcus, what the hell are you doing?" I asked him straight up. He ran his hands through his hair and looked genuinely stressed. "Look, I know how this looks, but it's complicated." "Complicated? You're cheating on Sarah." I know, but Jake, you don't understand. Things with Sarah have been different lately. We've been growing apart, and Jess and I just have this connection, you know? It just happened." I stared at him in disbelief. "It just happened? Marcus, Sarah is crazy about you. She does everything for you, and this is how you repay her?" "You think I don't feel terrible about this?" he said, getting defensive again. "You think this is easy for me? I care about Sarah, but I can't help how I feel about Jess." "Then break up with Sarah," I said, probably louder than I should have. "It's not that simple. Sarah's going through stuff with her family right now. Her dad's been sick, and she's stressed about graduation. I can't just dump her when she's dealing with all that." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He was trying to justify cheating by saying he was protecting Sarah's feelings. It was the most twisted logic I'd ever heard. "So your solution is to lie to her and sneak around behind her back?" "Look, I'm going to figure this out, okay? I just need some time. And Jake," he looked at me seriously, "I need you to not say anything. Please. Sarah doesn't need to know about this right now." And there it was. He was asking me to be complicit in his betrayal. The manipulation. What followed was months of Marcus slowly pulling me deeper into his web of lies. It started small. If Sarah called looking for Marcus when he was with Jess, I was supposed to say he was at the library or in class. If she asked about his weird behavior, I was supposed to back up whatever excuse he'd given her. At first, I told myself I was protecting Sarah from getting hurt. Marcus kept promising he was going to end things with Jess and focus on his relationship with Sarah. "I just need to get through this semester," he'd say. "Once the lab class is over, I won't have to see Jess anymore, and things will go back to normal." But things didn't go back to normal. If anything, Marcus and Jess's relationship got more intense. They started going on actual dates, spending entire nights together when Sarah wasn't around, and acting like a couple when it was just our friend group hanging out. The worst part was watching Sarah during all of this. She knew something was wrong. Women's intuition is real. And Sarah was picking up on all the signs. She'd ask me if I thought Marcus was acting strange, if I knew why he was so distant lately, if I thought he was losing interest in her. Every single time, I lied to her face. "No, Sarah, I think he's just stressed about classes. He's been working on this big project for his lab class. That's probably why he's distracted. Marcus talks about you all the time. He's crazy about you." Each lie made me feel worse, but I was in too deep to back out now. Marcus had made me feel like I was protecting everyone by keeping the secret, but really, I was just protecting him. Tyler and Ben. Find out. About 3 months into this nightmare, Tyler and Ben started figuring out what was going on. It's hard to hide a secret affair when you're living in the same house, and they started asking me questions. "Dude, is Marcus cheating on Sarah?" Tyler asked me one day when it was just the two of us. I panicked and denied it, but Tyler wasn't buying it. "Jake, we're not stupid. Jess is here all the time. They disappear into his room for hours, and Marcus acts guilty whenever Sarah's name comes up. Plus, you've been acting weird about it, too." When Ben confronted me a few days later, I finally cracked and told them everything. I was hoping they'd help me figure out what to do, but instead, they just got angry. At Marcus for putting us all in this position, and at me for not telling them sooner. "This is so messed up," Ben said. "Sarah doesn't deserve this. I know. But what am I supposed to do now? If I tell her, it'll destroy everything." "Everything's already destroyed," Tyler pointed out. "We're all lying to one of our best friends. How is that okay?" He was right, but I was paralyzed by the situation. Marcus had convinced me that telling Sarah would hurt her more than protecting her from the truth. He'd also made it clear that if I betrayed his trust, our friendship would be over, and potentially my living situation too. So Tyler, Ben, and I all became reluctant accomplices in Marcus's deception. None of us felt good about it, but we also didn't know how to get out of it without causing massive drama. The lies get bigger. As the months went on, the lies became more elaborate and harder to maintain. Marcus started asking us to cover for entire weekends when he wanted to go away with Jess. He'd tell Sarah he was visiting his family or going to academic conferences, and we'd have to back up his stories if she called or came by. Sarah started getting more suspicious, partly because Marcus was becoming a terrible liar, and partly because our whole friend group was acting weird around her. She'd make comments about how everyone seemed to be keeping secrets, how Marcus was different lately, how she felt like she was losing her place in our group. It was heartbreaking to watch. This girl, who had been nothing but loyal and loving, was slowly being pushed out of her own friend group because we were all complicit in her boyfriend's betrayal. The breaking point for me came when Sarah asked if she could talk to me privately. We went for coffee, and she opened up about how insecure and confused she'd been feeling. "Jake, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me," she said, tears in her eyes. Is Marcus seeing someone else? I looked at this girl who had been nothing but kind to me, who trusted me enough to come to me with her deepest fears, and I lied to her again. No, Sarah, Marcus loves you. He's just going through a rough patch with school and family stuff. She believed me. She thanked me for reassuring her and said she felt better knowing that one of Marcus's closest friends thought their relationship was solid. I felt like the worst person in the world. The discovery. Everything came crashing down on a Saturday afternoon in early April. Sarah had driven up to surprise Marcus for his birthday, which was the following week. She'd planned this whole surprise party, coordinated with all of us to make sure Marcus would be home, and even baked his favorite cake. What none of us knew was that Marcus had told Jess he was going to be alone for the weekend and had invited her over for what was essentially a romantic getaway in his own room. I was in my room doing homework when I heard Sarah's car pull up. My heart sank because I knew Marcus and Jess were upstairs together, and there was no way to warn them without making it obvious that I'd been in on the secret. Sarah let herself in with her key, something she'd done hundreds of times before, and called out, "Surprise! Happy early birthday, babe!" From my room, I could hear her walking around downstairs, probably setting up the cake and decorations she'd brought. Then I heard her footsteps on the stairs. "Marcus, are you home?" I sat frozen in my room, knowing what was about to happen and feeling completely powerless to stop it. Part of me thought about creating some kind of distraction, but it was too late. I heard Sarah knock on Marcus's door. "Marcus, I have a surprise for you." Then I heard her open the door. The scream that came from Sarah's mouth is something I'll never forget. It was this sound of pure heartbreak and betrayal, like her entire world had just collapsed. The explosion. What followed was complete chaos. Sarah was screaming, crying, demanding to know how long this had been going on. Marcus was trying to explain himself, making excuses, begging her to let him explain. Jess was apparently trying to get dressed and get out of there as quickly as possible. Tyler and Ben came running from their rooms, and we all stood in the hallway like deer in headlights, not knowing what to do. Sarah came bursting out of Marcus's room, still crying, and saw all three of us standing there. "You all knew, didn't you?" she said, her voice breaking. "You all knew he was cheating on me." The look on her face when she realized we'd all been lying to her was devastating. It wasn't just betrayal from Marcus anymore, it was betrayal from her entire friend group. "Sarah, I started, but she cut me off. "How long?" she demanded. "How long have you all been lying to me?" When none of us answered immediately, she lost it completely. "I trusted you," she screamed. "I came to you asking if something was wrong, and you looked me in the eye and lied to me. How could you do that?" Marcus tried to come out of his room to talk to her, but Sarah wanted nothing to do with him. "Don't you dare," she said. "Don't you dare try to explain this away. You're disgusting, and so are all of you for helping him." She grabbed her purse and stormed out, but not before turning around one more time. "I hope it was worth it," she said. I hope she was worth destroying everything. The aftermath, the fallout from that day was immediate and devastating. Sarah, understandably, wanted nothing to do with any of us. She blocked all of us on social media, wouldn't respond to calls or texts, and made it clear through mutual friends that she considered us all complicit in Marcus's betrayal. But that was just the beginning. Word spread quickly through our extended friend group about what had happened. Some people took Sarah's side, others tried to stay neutral, but everyone had an opinion about what we should have done. Our tight-knit friend group of 10 people basically split into factions. There were the people who thought We should have told Sarah immediately. The people who understood why we kept quiet, and the people who just wanted to avoid the drama altogether. Marcus and Jess tried to make a real go of their relationship after everything came out. But the foundation was so toxic that it didn't last. Within a month, they were broken up, and Marcus was trying to win Sarah back, which obviously didn't work. Tyler and Ben both blamed me for not speaking up sooner, saying that if I'd confronted the situation when I first discovered it, maybe the whole thing could have been handled differently. They weren't wrong, but it felt like they were making me the scapegoat for a situation we'd all participated in. The worst part was losing Sarah's friendship. She'd been such a positive presence in all our lives, and knowing that I'd contributed to hurting her made me feel terrible about myself. I tried reaching out to apologize, but she made it clear she didn't want to hear from any of us. Living with the consequences. It's been about 6 months since everything exploded, and the effects are still rippling through my life. Marcus and I live in the same house, but our friendship is basically over. There's too much resentment and hurt on both sides. He blames me for not being supportive enough, and I blame him for putting me in an impossible situation in the first place. Tyler and Ben are moving out at the end of the semester. They say they can't handle the toxic environment in the house anymore, and honestly, I don't blame them. What used to be a fun, comfortable living situation has become awkward and tense. Our extended friend group never really recovered. Some friendships survived, but the dynamic is completely different now. There's always this underlying tension, this sense that people are taking sides or walking on eggshells to avoid bringing up the drama. I've learned that Sarah is doing well, which I'm glad to hear. She's dating someone new, someone who apparently treats her the way she deserves to be treated. I'm happy for her, but it also makes me feel worse about my role in what happened. What I've learned looking back. I know I made the wrong choice by keeping Marcus's secret. I told myself I was protecting Sarah, but really, I was just taking the easy way out. I was prioritizing my own comfort and my relationship with Marcus over doing what was right. The truth is, Sarah deserved to know what was happening. She deserved the chance to make her own decisions about her relationship and her life. By keeping the secret, I robbed her of that agency and made her feel crazy for having suspicions that were completely valid. I also learned that loyalty to friends doesn't mean blindly supporting them when they're doing something wrong. Real friendship means calling people out when they're making bad choices, even if it's uncomfortable. If I'd confronted Marcus more forcefully from the beginning, maybe I could have prevented some of the damage. The whole experience taught me that keeping secrets like this is incredibly toxic. It doesn't just affect the people directly involved, it affects everyone around them. Our entire friend group suffered because we all became complicit in a lie that grew bigger and more destructive over time. Moving forward, I'm still dealing with the guilt and regret from this whole situation. I've been going to counseling to work through my feelings and figure out how to make better choices in the future. One thing I've realized is that I need to be more assertive about my values and not let other people pressure me into compromising them. I've also learned the importance of honest communication in relationships. If I'm ever in a situation like this again, I'll speak up immediately rather than letting things fester and grow into something much worse. As for Marcus, I don't know if we'll ever be friends again. The trust is broken, and even though I understand he was in a difficult emotional situation, I can't respect how he handled it. Using his friends as accomplices in his deception was manipulative and unfair. I miss the way things used to be. I miss having a tight-knit friend group where everyone trusted each other. I miss Sarah's presence in our lives, her kindness, her laughter, her ability to bring people together. Most of all, I miss feeling good about myself and my choices. Final thoughts. If there's one thing I want people to take away from this story, it's that keeping secrets about cheating is never the right choice. You're not protecting anyone. You're just enabling bad behavior and making the eventual fallout worse. If you know someone is being unfaithful, the kindest thing you can do is encourage them to come clean or give them an ultimatum about telling the truth. Don't let yourself become complicit in someone else's betrayal. And if you're the one being cheated on, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let people gaslight you into thinking you're being paranoid or insecure. You deserve honesty and respect in your relationships. As for me, I'm still working on rebuilding my life and my sense of self-worth. The whole experience was a hard lesson in integrity and the importance of standing up for what's right, even when it's difficult. I hope sharing this story helps someone avoid making the same mistakes I did. Sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. But in the long run, it's always worth it. Thanks for listening to my story. And I hope it serves as a reminder that our choices have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us.